Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today I decided to do a video about VELEN'S. It's something that I get a lot of questions about on my stream and on videos. When and where should I use VELEN'S? Do I bind it with other spells? So this video is not only going to cover Resto Druids, it's actually going to be very general, because for Resto Druids you have like a major cooldown, which is as a Ganir and Tranquility, and all other healers, Resto Shamans, Holy Priests, whatever, they usually have one additional cooldown on top of a big healing cooldown. Healing Tide, Divine Hymn, Revival, and things like that. So everything what I'm saying right now is going to be relevant to every class basically. So first of all, VELEN'S is actually one of the strongest legendaries for actually probably every healer out there, which makes it a go-to legendary. And it's really important to actually know how to use this, because if you don't make good use out of it, then the legendary actually diminishes a lot. VELEN'S by itself is an amazing stat stick, gives you a lot of intellect, gives you a lot of secondary stats. So by just default, it's an amazing trinket in that respect. Secondary, you have increase when you use it, increases all healing done by 15%. 15% extra healing right away. That is awesome. And causes 50% of overhealing on players to be redistributed to up to 3 nearby injured allies for 10 seconds. 1 minute and 15 seconds cooldown. The cooldown is ridiculous. 1 minute and 15 seconds. There's no really any spell out there with this kind of cooldown, so you can't really use this on cooldown, which you probably shouldn't be anyway. The 15% increased healing is not going to show up on logs, so if you are checking out all the top druids, top healers or whatever, and you see their VELEN'S is doing 3 to 5% of healing, which is usually what it's about in logs, 3 to 5%. Don't be so down if you're doing about 3%, if your VELEN'S is doing 3% on certain fights, because that's what you usually can actually do. I haven't seen that many logs where VELEN'S actually goes above 5%, but you gotta keep in mind that it's not only that 3 to 5% healing that you get from overhealing basically. It's also the 15% healing increase, which can be binded to other spells and cooldowns. So before I'm actually going to cover how I actually use my VELEN'S, I'm going to be covering how the overheal portion actually works. So like I said, overhealing on players to be redistributed up to 3 nearby targets. 3 nearby targets is really vague. Now, it seems to be that the range of VELEN'S redistribution is actually quite insane. I think I'm actually going to reach a target. Let's use my target to me as an example. I think I'm actually going to be able to reach it from here. So if I actually heal myself, it goes into overhealing. I pop VELEN'S. I'm popping VELEN'S here. And you can see here that this is actually going to the target to me from this range. So all the overhealing on me is going into the target to me who is at 0% HP. So you can see that the range is actually insane. It's actually really long. When it says nearby targets, it's actually a little bit, you know. So straight away you have a portion which says it heals 3 targets. As I mentioned before, when you actually pop VELEN'S, itself, all of your overhealing is gonna go to the 3 nearby targets. It's not going to happen after VELEN'S expires. It's going to happen. It's happening every tick basically. It's happening a lot. It's happening continuously. So all of the overhealing that I'm doing right now is keep ticking to the target to me. So it's not something that you have this buff for 10 seconds and after 10 seconds it's going to detonate, like which I initially thought was going to happen. Is that after 10 seconds of healing or overhealing, all of that healing is going to be built up and the 3 players are going to be healed straight away. That's not how it works here. It's actually a continuous ticking healing damage to the 3 targets, which is really important to know. So let's look at VELEN'S usage. So now that we know that VELEN'S, when used, it's going to heal 3 targets. It's going to heal 3 targets. It's going to buff your healing by 15%. So you're kind of stuck in, when do I use it? What if there's 3 people taking damage? I can technically pop VELEN'S when there are 3 people taking damage. I pop VELEN'S. I do a lot of overhealing. I use my healing cooldowns and things like that. And all of that overhealing, or 50% of that overhealing, is gonna go into the targets. Now you gotta keep in mind that you gotta keep in mind that is that worth it, because you're wasting the 15% healing increase that you could save for a situation where there's a lot of damage. Needs to be healed up, and you're basically using VELEN'S for that 15% increase in healing, and you're kind of forgetting about, like, you know, the 3 other healer, the 3 other people getting healed up by overhealing. That's pretty nice. So it's really all about VELEN'S usage. It's all about knowing the damage patterns. It's all about knowing whether you should be binding it to things like your throughput cooldown, such as like for Resto Druids, Essence of Ganir. Should I bind Essence of Ganir with VELEN'S? I actually have a macro for this. It's not off cooldown yet in 13 seconds. But the point is, if I actually pop a macro, it'll activate Essence of Ganir and VELEN'S. I'll be able to do, on top of my Essence of Ganir, I'll be doing plus 15% healing. So if there is a fight where it requires that much of a healing, or if there's like 10-second gap where it's required to do that much healing, it works great. Both of those cooldowns being popped works great. Now, doing a farm content, I barely ever find this kind of ability. So if I actually pop my VELEN'S, you see I get Essence of Ganir and VELEN'S at the same time. Now, this is going to provide insane amount of healing. But like I said, I actually, right now, doing the farm content, even in Mythic, I don't really find a scenario where you could actually pop it. Example, Harjatan, when he reaches the 100 power and he does the damage in front of everyone, I probably won't even use VELEN'S for that. I might use VELEN'S a single cooldown. To actually try and get people up. But I know that people are gonna get up like in a couple of seconds, so my VELEN'S most likely is gonna be wasted. Again, so that's not a really good use of a cooldown at all. I wouldn't even use Essence of Ganir for that. And then you have fights like Sisters of the Moon, where there's kind of continuous damage coming in. There's parts, especially in Mythic, at least in Mythic encounter, there's parts when people are crossing over. Every time they cross over, there's a bit of amount of taking damage happening. And then you have the part where you have to heal up the bubbles, where you need a lot of healing. Or maybe someone's going to be using a healing cooldown, and you just need to help them out. You don't want to go crazy because someone already has a healing cooldown. I don't have to use my trank. So maybe you'll be popping your VELEN'S and maybe popping your Essence of Ganir to break the bubbles. Or maybe you're going to popping your VELEN'S at the start when people are crossing over, and just saving your Essence of Ganir for the part where you need to break the bubbles. So there is like multiple versions or combinations that you can do. If it's your turn to break the bubbles, maybe you want to go hardcore and go Essence of Ganir, VELEN'S, pop your Wild Growth and go Trank. And do as much as healing as you can in that single situation. Pop everything. That's also perfectly viable, and it actually works really well in Sisters when you need to heal up those bubbles. So it's a situation. You really need to know the damage patterns coming in. You really need to know whether you want to bind it. I would highly recommend not to use, if you can use this macro that has the Essence of Ganir and VELEN'S, but also I keep my VELEN'S on a separate keybind when I feel that I'm not going to be binding it with Ganir, or I'm not going to be binding it with a throughput cooldown. I would recommend for you to have a separate buttons for each of the trinkets, or at least for VELEN'S, Ganir, or any of your healing throughput cooldowns that you use as a priest, shaman, or whatever. It applies to all the healing classes. And after that, like, I mean, it's all about knowing the fight. It's all about knowing the healing cooldowns. I personally, the way I use it, I separate all my healing cooldowns. I use VELEN'S by itself, because right now for about majority of Tomb Sageras, there is no, I cannot think of a pattern for 10 seconds that would require for me to use all of my cooldowns, and that would not lead to a massive amount of overhealing. Most of the time, if I would actually use my Essence of Ganir and VELEN'S, that would lead to a massive amount of overhealing, and the overhealing portion of VELEN'S that heals 3 targets wouldn't even do anything because everyone's already full HP. But that's to do with the kind of healers you play, the kind of content you do, how many healers you bring. Like for example, Maiden's Mythic, there's constant AoE damage. There's a part where there's a lot of healing. It's also up to you to decide. You can save all your cooldowns for one part, or you can just spread them all out. VELEN'S in the first 10 seconds, Essence of Ganir after about a minute, then Trank, after 2 minutes. Like, you can spread them out, or you can use them all at one portion. When should you be using it? Depending on where you're struggling. If you're at the part in a fight where people always tend to die, or where people always tend to go really low beyond the safety point, maybe you should say, I'm not gonna use any of these VELEN'S or Essence of Ganir or whatever cooldowns that I have, because the first parts are not really needed. I'm only padding my own meters by just using this at the start. I'm gonna save these cooldowns and actually pop them all at the same time during the part when everyone's dying, and actually really save the raid and progress into the next boss, or progress into the boss itself. So there, like, I can't really tell. So the whole video is like, I can't really tell you when to use VELEN'S. My personal experience for my raid, I spread all the cooldowns out. I never use them at the same time, except for things like I said, Sisters of the Moon, when I actually have to break the shields. Maidens, I actually spread out all of my cooldowns in Maidens. I don't use VELEN'S or Ganir at the same time ever. Mainly because even at the parts where there's supposed to be a lot of healing, there really isn't that much healing. We run with 5 healers and things like that. So depending on your, this has been way too long, but depending on your healing team, I advise you, separate your VELEN'S, your Essence of Ganir, your Trank, all of your healing cooldowns separately, and decide based on the moment. Do not hold, most of the time, for most of the scenarios, do not hold VELEN'S for a part where, oh crap, everyone's dying. Because most of the time, that's not going to happen in Tomb of Sargeras. Most of the time, that's not going to happen. Unless you know the fight, Sisters of the Moon, where you can have to heal up the shields, you won't have to pop 2 or 3 cooldowns at the same time. That goes for like a lot of the fights. So if there's a moderate amount of damage happening, if there's like 5, 6, whatever amount of people taking damage, pop your VELEN'S. If there is continuous damage happening and you're struggling, pop Essence and see how it goes. If you know the fight inside out, then you probably shouldn't be watching this video, because you know how to use VELEN'S. But thank you guys for watching this little guide. Let me know if it helped you. Let me know how you feel about this little video, and I'll see you next time.